Starting on Wednesday, workers at VW's Chattanooga, Tennessee plant will vote on whether or not to unionize. It's a vote a lot of auto industry folks and people are looking at as very important. And now we have some members of the legislature in Tennessee saying that if you guys vote for the union, that really wouldn't be such a good idea. We may not have more incentives for you. We might actually force VW to move its next plant to Mexico. Rick Newman, workers in the United States of America have a right to unionize if they want to, right?
Right.
What do you make of, we have State Senator Bob Watson, you also have U.S. Senator Bob Corker basically coming in and saying, gee, guys, you work for VW here in Tennessee. We don't want you voting for the union. What are the ramifications of this?
Yeah, this is interesting because most of the southern states, there are a lot of southern states that have auto factories at this point. They're almost all foreign automakers building cars in the United States, and those are all non-unionized.
They're non-unionized,
and
right.
the reason they're in the South is because those are so-called right-to-work states where presumably you don't have to deal with the difficulty of a union. What's different in this case is two things, really. First of all, the manufacturer is Volkswagen, which is from Germany, where unions are very strong. And Volkswagen, unlike most other big companies, has said, we really wouldn't mind if there's a union here. And secondly, you've got the politicians kind of freaking out in Tennessee saying, oh, my God, it's a union invasion. It's the last thing, it's the last thing we ever want in our state. I don't think it's quite that drastic because the United Auto Workers is not the way it was 10 years ago. When General Motors and Chrysler went bankrupt, Ford almost did, they really renegotiated everything with the unions. So you don't. It's
not the same UAW that we're used to. But here's some of the comments. So this is State Senator Bo Watson. Excuse me. The members of the Tennessee Senate will not view unionization as in the best interest of Tennessee. It would make it, quote, exponentially more challenging for the legislature to approve future subsidies. So of course now, VW got tax breaks and other subsidies to come to Tennessee in the first place, and now the state senator is saying, gee, we're not going to be able to do that anymore if you guys unionize. And then you had U.S. Senator Bob Corker say, referring to the UAW as a, quote, Detroit-based organization, basically saying, we don't want that taint of Detroit's bankruptcy.
Look what happened to Detroit. Now it's going to happen here.
Is there any... First of all, is there any truth really that the UAW was responsible for what happened to Detroit? I mean, wasn't it a collective failure amongst the companies and unions
as well? Yeah, the unions absolutely had something to do with it, but I detect a wee bit of hyperbole in
Just
Tennessee.
A wee bit? Yes.
Yeah, the unions had something to do with what wrecked the three automakers, but they weren't the cause of it. I mean, there were a lot of problems. They were mismanaged. Their strategies were terrible. They failed to anticipate things in the future, like smaller vehicles.
Like take the Japanese automakers seriously, right?
Yeah, that's right. There were a lot of factors going on there, but one of them was that they got locked into these overly generous contracts with the union. I mean, things like the Jobs Bank, where you got paid for not showing up to work. Basically, I mean, these were went back to the 1960s basically, and that old legacy of old labor. That's mostly gone.
Right, so you're saying this is not your father's UAW.
Yeah,
those aren't the kind of contracts that these guys would get at the VW plant.
That's right. I mean, even if they mimicked the current contracts UAW has, there's a two-tier wage structure now. You don't automatically walk into a job paying $25 an hour. Those first jobs pay a lot less. And it's hard to imagine that, okay, let's say this plant unionized and suddenly Tennessee says, politicians there say, oh, we don't want companies that employ our people because they're unionized employees now, so we're going to give up all these jobs or discourage companies from coming here because they might be union jobs. I mean, that's very unlikely to happen.
And I hate to say it, if they did that, and even if they continue this kind of rhetoric, you're going to get the Justice Department or someone else from the federal government coming in there and saying, you can't do this. It's going to be a huge political fight, and we'll be hearing about it in the talk shows up until the midterms. It could be a big issue if this persists. Let's hope you're right that it's just hyperbole and cooler heads will prevail, and let's see how the vote turns out.
It'll be interesting.
All right, let us know what you think in the comment section below, or look us up on Twitter and Facebook.
Yahoo!